Hi everyone. So we're going to cover a couple little things in this sort of mini episode of tutorial videos for the playlist. So the first thing is something that I might have already talked about in class, even though if you missed it, it might be a little bit of a recurring problem. And oopsies, don't want to jump ahead here. Essentially, here is the issue that I understand certain people have had. And that is the very understandable situation where you're kind of just like lost in space like this in Rhino, where you can't see any of your model because the zoom function can unfortunately be kind of tricky. As you can see, you can get out really far in from your model, and now, if I didn't know where to look, I'd be kind of scrolling a little bit hopelessly. So the first thing we're going to talk about is zoom extents. Zoom extents is something that essentially just whatever view you're in is just going to bring you right back and centralize your model wherever you want to find it. So let's give that a try right now. Let's say I'm in my perspective view and I want to find my model. I'm going to just type ZE for zoom extents, and I hit enter. Boom, there it is. I do the same thing in the front view, type ZE. Look at that. Essentially every time, once you have the viewport selected, you're going to type ZE, and it's going to automatically centralize the model, the extents of everything you've crafted in Rhino to your viewport. So now this is great, but unfortunately, look, we're still really far away from our grid and everything. That's no good. So now I'm going to also talk to you about how to take everything you've made and snap it right to the middle of your grid. And it's very easy, and it's with a tool that you've already used. So check this out. I'm going to drag a box over everything I want to move back to the middle of my grid. Drag, left click, release. I'm going to type M for move, hit enter. Point to move from, it doesn't really matter, but let's grab somewhere on the street. So left click. Now instead of dragging it to a specific point, we're just going to type 0. It's going to take us to the point 0 on our grid. So hit enter. Uh-oh, it's gone again. That's because it just took everything we made and put it in the middle of the grid, which thankfully we can find very easily using the zoom extents command. Z-E, enter, and great. Zoom, enter. See, it's right in the middle of our grid. Z-E, right where we want it. Z-E, perfect. Now, there's another thing I realized I might not have talked to you about in detail yet. Before we get to any of the creating pitched roof stuff, which is also very simple, let's make sure we go through this. Here's what we're going to do. Instead of, I know that I've talked to you about scrolling in and out with your scroll wheel to get closer or farther from your design. But now let's say we don't want to orbit like we'd get if we held down the right key. We want to just move to the left and right but maintain this direction. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold the scroll key button down. Sorry, I apologize. We're going to hold the right cursor down. Right cursor. We're going to hold the shift key down too, and that lets us strafe across the model just like so. So again, sorry for that little mistake before. Right cursor held down, shift held down, and look at that. It works in any view. Right cursor held down, shift held down, and look at that. Great. So that's just another handy tool to sort of have in your back pocket. Now it's time for us to talk a little bit about doing things like creating slanted or pitched roofs. Very easy to do with a tool that is new for this project, but if you like Rhino and you keep moving with it, you're probably going to want to keep using it. And that is, see down here, something that you might have heard Tawab mention in class, this guy here, the Gumball tool. Left click the Gumball tool. Now what we're going to do, the Gumball tool essentially lets you manipulate about really specific directions, and thankfully, because we don't want the snaps pulling our extruded lines in any weird direction, that's exactly what we want. So Gumball selected so that we see the text is emboldened. And now, let's say I want to create a pitched roof that is a meter higher on this end than it is on this one. I'm going to turn grid snap on for a second just for demonstration's sake. Here's what we're going to do. So with Gumball selected, we're going to scroll in. Now, I have already built this square up, so when I try to select it, this is the right axis, and that axis looks right, and that's the Gumball doing its job. See? When you turn Gumball off, it goes away when it comes back here. But that's not quite what we want, because if we try to pick this up right now, it takes the whole object, and I would assume that's not really what you want right now. So here's what we're going to do instead. We're going to deselect. You're going to hold a couple keys down, because we're just going to select this face here. We're going to hold Control and Shift, and then left click this face, and now Gumball knows we only want to take that edge. Now, as you can see, we could pull it out if we wanted to, or in this direction, but in this case, we want to pull it vertically. So we're going to select this arrow. This one looks good. This is the direction we want to go. We're going to left click and hold and just carry it up. Now, thankfully, I have grid snap on, so as you can see down here, over on this corner, you're going to be able to see how far up I'm essentially dragging that corner that I'm lifting with this Gumball tool. So I'm just going with that arrow held down, left click, and I'm just dragging it up, and 1 meter. Sure enough, now when I look up, I see that has just created something that is just a meter higher than the other. So I've successfully created a pitched roof. Now, let's say that I didn't want that to be a meter. I wanted it to be like half a meter or something a little more specific for your model. No problem. Gumball is going to stay on. I'm going to go over to grid snap. Let's turn that off. Now I'm going to do the same thing I just did before to select that edge. Control, Shift, left select. I'm going to click and hold this direction down, the desired direction. And you're going to see from the little direction area here that now it's not snapping to any nice it's not snapping to any nice 1, 2, 3 kind of number like it would have been before. It's kind of it's just going exceedingly incrementally. So if I wanted to increase it, say, I don't know, so it was 8 meters to begin with. If we want to just increase it to 5, exactly half a meter, I have all the power in the world to increase it as little or as much as I want. So that's all great, right? But I know some of you are going to be wanting to create like a gable roof. So that's really easy to do as well. But let's turn off Gumball for a second. If we want to create a gabled roof, like something that's essentially just going to be pitched in 2 directions, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to move over, and we're going to use a new tool over in the Boolean Union menu, or no, rather, it's not the Boolean Union menu, but that's where you can look to find it. You can left click. You're going to move over to Split Planar Face. You see this one here? So again, you're going to go to the Boolean Union, sort of where that is located. Left click, that's Solid Tools. And you're going to pick Split Planar Face. That one right there. Left click. Then it's going to ask us to pick a face to split. This one looks good because this is where we're going to sort of create a roof. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to left click. We're going to hit enter. And it's going to ask us to pick the start of a split axis. Now let's say that we want this to sort of be a pitched roof in this direction. We need to actually draw a line for it to become, to sort of serve as the roof's peak. So that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to pick left click. And that's what we want the roof's peak to do. And left click again. That looks like a good split axis to me. So now we're going to hit enter. And there we have, that's going to be our split axis. And thanks to Gumball, now we can grab that split axis and turn it into a peak on a pitched roof. So we're going to turn Gumball on again down here. Left click. Oh, deselect because we only want to grab this piece. We're going to go type Control, Shift, left click. Great. Now, grid snap is turned on. Now it is anyway. And let's say I want to make that a 2 meter high peak. Keep your eye on the Z sort of measurements down here. We're going to make sure that we stick to that 2 meters. So I'm going to go move over here, left click and hold, drag, 10 meters, that's a little high. 1, 2, 1 and 2. Great. That's exactly what we want. So 2 meters, boom. and just release, and it's done just like that. So again, one more time. Once I had that split, I'm going to go Control Z. That's Control, Shift, left click the peak. I want to essentially stretch up. I'm going to grab the direction I want, which is this one. Left click and hold, and drag 1, 2 meters. Done. And that's essentially going to work as a way to draw a roof with an angle for the scope of these projects in SketchUp. So just remember, Gumball select, Control, Shift, and then left click whatever corner you want to pull up.